Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
We call him Dracula.
Well, 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 the last voyage of the Demeter is almost within reach, just a few more weeks until it hits cinemas on August the 11th. Firstly, welcome to the channel, lovely to have you. You're probably here because you love the horror genre just like me, and wow, do we potentially have an absolute gem of a horror film almost upon us. You know, sometimes you cannot tell if a horror movie will be good after watching the trailer. I think this is because we've become acclimatised to the fact that more often than not, they simply make the trailers to be better than the actual films. But not here, not with this one. You can bet your boots that this movie will not just be a solid entry into the horror genre, but will go down as a cult classic that begs for repeat viewings, and will also be a masterfully created period piece that will capture our imaginations. That, folks, is called healthy optimism. So for me, the trailer has me sold on the movie rather than being sold on the trailer. The premise of a crew being trapped on board a Russian schooner for a very lengthy ocean voyage with this evil presence, they are told at some point by a stowaway, is none other than Dracula himself. Well, this certainly does add an intense and claustrophobic setting for the crew, doesn't it? Some of the most well-crafted films in this genre were able to make the audience feel the pressure, tension and despair of the characters because they could not escape their environment. Probably the best examples of this are Alien, The Descent and John Carpenter's The Thing. But from the looks of the trailer we see that the ill-fated crew on board the Demeter won't be getting any sleep either, as it seems the vampire will be picking them off one by one as each night arrives. I suppose every movie has its glaringly obvious faults, and in this case it would be, why don't they just simply find and kill it during the day under the protection of the sunlight? But I'm not here to critique that kind of nonsense, as the film looks set to blow my mind, and I'm also sure there will be a good reason as to why the crew cannot do this. Maybe dark magic, or perhaps they're simply too scared to open many of the numerous and very sinister looking cargo crates on board, stowed away in the darkness. That's if Dracula is hiding in them during daylight hours. If not, then
what's in the box?
Most intriguing. So this whole movie is actually based on just one chapter called The Captain's Log from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. We will follow a small crew on board the Russian schooner named the Demeter, which is chartered to carry private crates with unknown contents from Romania to London. Sounds simple enough, what could go wrong? Now, I'm sure the movie will make much use of creative license, as you cannot pull a 2-hour film just from a single chapter, but I did notice that instead of the cargo crates being unmarked as was in the novel, they appear to have the dragon symbol clearly presented here, which is a nice touch. The very word Dracula means of the dragon, which stems all the way back to the tyrant Vlad the Impaler, who was most famous for impaling his victims through the anus on big giant spikes, and would later adopt their name Dracula to sow fear into his enemies. Lovely chap, but out of the many names he was known as, it was the name Dracula that stuck. Obviously the Dracula part is fiction, but sadly the rest is true. So the dragon symbol is a very clear indication of the connection to him in the trailer. So let's talk about the trailer, and honestly, how good does this film bloody look? It somehow reminds me, and almost feels like it should be a smaller budget period piece horror film. You know, where usually the story elements are on point and well executed, and the acting is great, but you never feel like it's a real ship, and the dodgy looking water effects are added later using CG, etc. But nope, not with the Last Voyage of the Demeter. Everything from set design and locations to lighting and cinematography is perfect for what this story and its audience deserves, and at least visually pays great tribute to the mind of Bram Stoker. So clearly DreamWorks Pictures and Universal had good reasons to spend some cash on this one. I am a little unclear as to exactly when this film takes place. I'd have to assume it is, of course, within the 19th century, but maybe somebody can let me know in the comments, please. I'd love to know. The port we glimpse in Romania, as well as the fleet of ships anchored up, all look very lived in and authentic. Thank God. I'm so sick of fantasy and period piece TV shows or movies that look far too clean and unrealistic. Game of Thrones was a little guilty of it, and certainly The Witcher series does it best, where everything you see in the show looks like a prop out of a costume wardrobe. but here the Demeter looks like a vessel that has been used by people that have worked and lived in it for some time. Speaking of Game of Thrones, I did notice that the actor Liam Cunningham, aka Sir Davos Seaworth, is at it again, stuck out at sea once more, the poor guy. I gotta say, the sort of vibe I'm getting is eerily similar to that of the supernatural horror series called The Terror, if anyone has seen it. It was a lower budget but very well crafted series that explored a crew stranded as the North Atlantic Ocean freezes around them, trapping their ship and leaving them vulnerable to a mystical creature indigenous to that region. It's well worth a watch, so please feel free to check it out if you can. I love the use of lighting inside the compartments of the ship. As we see the crew eat, drink and get to work, it feels warm and hearty, but at the same time leaves a sense of something sinister to come. But my god, the vistas we see, whether it be the bustling Romanian port or at open sea as the sun begins to retreat, it all begs us to view this film on the biggest screen possible, and a gentle reminder that we should support our cinema industry when it's the films that count. I do cherish the decision they made to have Dracula in full beast form for the majority of the film. Even the teeth flipping scare me. Imagine the puncture marks left by those things. His skin has a very dark and rubbery texture, and the ears are nicely proportionate to the demonic head. I mean, I can't believe I'm talking about ears on a vampire, for crying out loud, but I distinctly remember wondering why some versions of Batman look so much better than others, and I think it was because Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder managed to get the ears designed just right. So they nailed the face and head. What do you guys think about Dracula's body and form? There are some shots where we see him in a more human appearance, albeit slightly deformed and elongated. The interesting thing is that the actor playing him is none other than Javier Botet. This man has played so many monsters in his career. He was the pale alien in Covenant, he was the witch in It Chapter 2, and the Crooked Man in The Conjuring 2, as well as many more creature feature roles. This is mostly down to the fact that he has unusually long limbs and can contort his body in strange ways due to him having a genetic condition called Marfan syndrome. So if the disturbing silhouette of Dracula reminds you of other creatures that have scared you, then it's probably because of this man. So I do hope we don't get to see too much of the beast in the film, as so far in the trailer at least, the less is more and shrouded in darkness tactic works very well. I also love the way the creature makes use of its environment to either retreat or distract the crew members. From the tall masts and sails of the ship to the ocean's constant bombardment of wash landing on the deck, it's chilling to think this creature could pounce from any direction, including perhaps the ocean itself. All in all, I am very pleased with the tone of this film, and the cast of the movie excite me as well. I'm even more pleased that the director is André Øvredal. This Norwegian filmmaker gave us Troll Hunter and The Autopsy of Jane Doe, two cracking and very unusual films. André had this to say about the film back in April: "We've put a lot of effort into making the movie as unpredictable and as varied as possible in certain aspects. I always wanted to be very close to the original text, and I tried to embrace that as much as possible when making the movie. Of course there are liberties taken, it's just the way that works. It's a different medium, but I think we're still very close to Stoker's intent, the feeling and the story. Generally, you'll recognise many solid, clear plot points from the original text. So there we are. It's nice to hear comments like this from the director, and by the sounds of it, it's very clear he wants to surprise us with something different instead of the same old formula that we are so used to by now. So how much action and gore will be present is unclear, but my one wish for this film is that in the small confines of the doomed vessel, the Demeter, and its crew, the film is able to build the required amount of tension to then generate sufficient scares. Things like jump scares and loud noises are merely superficial without the groundwork of truly witnessing how people would behave and feel in a horrific situation like this. So please get it right and let us fans of this genre really feel the despair and horror of the crew on board. So otherwise, the trailer, as I said, is well crafted and raises my hopes. What about you guys and girls? Let me know in the comments if you are also dying to see this film, or if you have some reservations perhaps. I'll be sure to let you know my thoughts after seeing the film on the big screen soon, and in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Bye bye.